Good evening. Many thanks for joining tonight's broadcast. My name is Gloria Mutisi. As we begin this edition, let us first inform you that earlier today, President Paul Kagame received President Uhuru Kenyatta's envoys, led by Ambassador Rochelle Omamo, Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, who presented Kenya's candidate for Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Ambassador Monica Juma. The meeting also discussed the bilateral cooperation that exists between Rwanda and Kenya. Now, President Paul Kagame has urged African youth to think big and have long-term goals, but not to ignore things that they may consider to be small, because big things can come from them too. The Rwandan Head of State made the remarks on Monday while interacting with 600 young men and women at the Kigali Convention Center as part of the Pathway series hosted by Fred Swaniker. Stationary begins our coverage tonight.
During the discussions, the African leader had wise words for the continent's youth on some of the things they should be thinking about as young people and the various ways of approaching life's challenges and utilizing the opportunities available.
It's not just doing hard things. In fact, it starts with doing even simple things. Sometimes people take things to be so simple that they don't pay attention to them, yet cumulatively, they really add up to situations that will require you to do the hard things. So you can make the work of doing hard things much easier by paying attention to the simple, smaller things in time, so that the whole movement, I liked the way you called things here, the pathway. The pathway can be very difficult or can be simple, depending on how you paid attention to the simple, the easy, but also the hard things.
The young people who were present noted that the lessons imparted by the president should not be taken lightly.
So I'm very interested to be here in this place, because I was really passionate with different things, like to listen how Dr. Fred Swaniker spoken, how the young Africans have different things that must facilitate each one to be passionate with its different interests. And then I was hearing how there is some opportunities that are available here, but due to how there are some people who don't even know how they can use those opportunities.
I hear something which is very, very just interesting. I can say that during this conversation between Fred Swaniker and our Honorable Excellence Paul Kagame, we come up with some paramount ideas which can just set a way for the young people just to reach their targets. Just for me, I learned many things. Which will just help me, my personal and the other young people here, for reaching to their missions and visions in the future.
It was a blessing for me. It gave me the opportunity to meet face to face with the president sitting here and learn from him, learn from his experience, learn from his leadership. So what I got from this, as the president, His Excellency Paul Kagame said, was to not do hard things, but do small things that eventually becomes something that is equal to doing hard things. So going step by step and not burning, time and not burning spaces. That's what I learned the most.
The host of the event also imparted words of wisdom to the young men and women participating.
You need to think about relationship building like a bank account. You can't just withdraw from it and take. You also need to give, especially if you're a leader. Your role as a leader is not just to get stuff, it's to give and to create opportunities for others. So just as you are in the room and you're getting opportunities, you must be creating opportunities for other people. And if you do that, then you'll find that you'll succeed.
Questions were also posed to President Paul Kagame about the criticism leveled against Rwanda's leadership by some Western media houses.
There is no way I can change easily how someone wants to see me or sees me from their own perspective. Sometimes they must be looking at us through the lenses of their own, where they come from, where things really might be different from our own. So there are ways, maybe one can. The first thing that comes to my mind, what needs, what we can do in Rwanda, is take stock of what the press is saying and try to analyze it and say, well, is this thing right about us? Or maybe it's wrong. Or does it have a basis? Or maybe you may learn something and it may help you to correct something you can correct. If you really discover maybe they make sense. So that's where we concentrate. First, what we do in Rwanda and what we've tried to do for so many years now is really our business. We think what we do is our business before it becomes somebody else's business. And we do it for ourselves, and we try to do it the best way we can because we are the ones who benefit from it or lose from that if we do wrong things.
The president pointed out that Africans need to do the right things and do them well, and pointed out also that a person does not necessarily need to live as others do, though Africans do need to learn a few lessons from what others say about them. President Kagame urged the continent's young people to safeguard their health, especially now during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Chief of Defense Staff of the Rwanda Defense Force, General Kazura Jean Bosco, has stressed that it is time for the East African Community member states to live in peace and tranquility in the interests of their people. These remarks were made in Kigali on Monday at a meeting of EAC intelligence chiefs. Gabi Mofuni.
During the two-day meeting, the chiefs and directors of military intelligence from the East African Community partner states will review the regional security situation. Inaugurating the meeting, the Chief of Defense Staff of Rwanda Defense Force identified these institutions as the key to security and peace in the organization, urging their leaders to solve their problems instead of relying on the international community.
We all need to make sure that the Eastern African countries should live together in peace and harmony. And this is why we are here. And your role in it is very important. We all know that sometimes there are here and there some complications, but this is why we are here. This is why we are in this institution. That's why we need to find a solution to our own problems. We don't have to wait for some people coming from outside to tell us what to do and find solutions to our own problems. And having a gathering like this one, I believe this is an opportunity to make sure that what our principals want, this is what we shall do.
He also pointed out that it is time for the EAC member states to live in peace and harmony for the prosperity of their people and for the future generation.
Whether we like it or not, time comes and also time goes away. Today what we have, the families we have, the kids we have, one day, even though this is not what we want, but we may find ourselves not living anymore, but our countries shall always live. So it is now an opportunity to talk, to discuss, and to make sure that our future is bright to all of us. And this is what I would rather think that it is most important, and this is what we should think. And knowing who we are, that we are in charge of our military intelligence in different countries, it is time to think that we have, at any cost, live together in peace and harmony.
The EAC says the meeting took place during a time that countries were preoccupied dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. That created a gap where it gave insurgency groups an advantage. This comes at a time a terrorist attack last month took place near the French embassy in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, killing at least 4 people and injuring others. The EAC Defense Liaison Officer notes that terrorist activities could escalate after the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan, and that intelligence agencies need to be more vigilant and cooperative. He adds that in addition to the security issues at the borders of member states, the meeting will also focus on terrorist activities in Cabo Delgado province in Mozambique and the extent of their crackdown.
That is an issue which is already under control. I think the forces from the SADC and I think forces from the Rwanda Defense Forces are already on ground, and they are doing quite much to contain the situation. And I think, as I said, it might come up. I do not want to preempt, but those are some of the things that these meetings discuss. But just to mention, you remember there was an incident in Dar es Salaam. There was also an incident in Mombasa on matters that are related to terrorism. So all those things might come up and should come up, and the meeting should come up with ways to try and ensure that the efforts that the respective armed forces and regional organizations have put in place to ensure that these elements of instability or terrorism elements are contained.
The military intelligence agencies from Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, South Sudan, Burundi and Rwanda are all represented at the summit, which is expected to conclude on Tuesday. Gabi Muvunyi, reporting for RTV News.
Many thanks, Gabi Muvunyi. To judicial matters, Paul Rusesabagina has been sentenced to 25 years in prison after being found guilty of a number of the charges that had been leveled against him. Prosecutors in the case say they are going to appeal the verdict they call far too lenient, something they say is the case for his co-accused as well.
The ruling has been made by the High Court Chamber for International and Cross-Border Crimes, and among the group of 21, Paul Rusesabagina's sentence of 25 years was by far the most severe. The decision of the court sentences Paul Rusesabagina to 25 years in prison. Calixte Nsabimana, also known as Sankara, is sentenced to 20 years in prison. Calixte Nsabimana, Berchmas Matakamba, Kassie Bizimana, Jean Damascene Nsabimana, Mark Nzeimana, Jean-Claude Byukusenge, Innocent Ntibiramira, and Emmanuel Shaban all got 20 years behind bars. Simon Nikuzgwe got 10 years, while Herman Sengimana, Felicien Sanzubukire, Anastase Munyaneza, Marcel Nirora, Andre Kwitonda, Theogene Hachizimana, Emmanuel Iramuremye and Angelina Mukandutie got 5. Jean Dajijimana and Emmanuel Shimimana each got a sentence of 3 years in prison, by far the shortest sentence in the ruling. The team of prosecutors was not happy with any of the sentences passed and said they are going to appeal.
The reaction for the prosecution is that we are not happy to some of the judgment that we rendered today, because the sentences that were given to Sankara and his co-accused, we found them that to be very lenient, because we had requested initially, let's say for Sankara 25 years, he was given 20 years. We requested for life sentence. He was given 25 years. And even others, others were given 5 years, others 20, others 25. So we are going to have time, take our time and read the judgment, make our own assessment and see if we can appeal, because we think we have the grounds for appeal against this judgment.
It is not just the sentences that have left many not happy, because some of the victims of the FLN attacks who also sued for compensation were not granted what they had asked for due to insufficient evidence.
Some
of the things we asked for compensation were disregarded by the court over insufficient evidence. We were not happy with that because during the court proceedings, we obviously could not produce evidence for some of the things, such as the property that was stolen or destroyed. However, we believe some in our group could appeal. The defendants now have 30 days to appeal the sentences if they choose to. Rwanda's government spokesperson has issued a press release noting that even though the trial took a long time to conclude, it has exposed many of the operations of the FLN terrorist group and shown irrefutable proof of the guilt of Paul Rusesabagina. The government of Rwanda has also commended the courage of victims of the group's attacks that provided testimony in court.
After Paul Rusesabagina being sentenced to 25 years in prison and other penalties given to his co-accused for the terror attacks done on Rwandan soil, some residents of Nyabimata sector in Nyaruguru district say that were affected by the FLN insurgencies say that they are dissatisfied with the verdict because they would have wanted Paul Rusesabagina to be sentenced to life imprisonment for the seriousness of the crimes committed. Kilometers from the Nyungwe agroforest belt in Nyabimata sector in Nyaruguru district. This is the route the FLN rebels used to launch the first attack on Rwandan soil. The night of June 19th into 20th, 2018 will never be erased from Jean-Marie Havugimana's heart after his motorbike that was his source of income was set ablaze and has been the cause of extreme poverty for his household to date.
They stopped me and hit me on the head with a gun. They then burned down my motorcycle, which was my source of livelihood. It has left me in poverty and I don't think I will ever recover.
The rebels also set fire to the car of former executive secretary of Nyabimata sector, Nsengiyumva Vincent. That night, some residents were abducted by the rebels who made them walk for miles, carrying the property the rebels had looted from the community. Although some were released that night, it was different for Bizimana Theoneste, who spent 2 days in the forest with the rebels.
They found me where I had gone to do some beekeeping and told me to go with them and join their group. They then tried to teach me how to use a gun. And afterwards I said I would herd their cows. By sheer luck, they agreed that they would escort me back.
Some of the families who lost their loved ones who were shot that night say this left them with great trauma, in addition to the poverty that came from looting of their property. The FLN militia killed my husband. When the attack happened in the night, they called him saying the car for the sector executive secretary was burning. I accompanied him. People kept calling him and he confirmed to them that indeed the car was burning. The militia asked him to hand over the phones and told him a Swahili word, kimbia. He thought he had been forgiven, and then after about 2 meters, he was shot in the lower back and on the shoulder next to his heart. After Paul Rusesabagina being sentenced to 25 years in prison and other penalties given to his co-accused for the terror attacks done on Rwandan soil, some residents of Nyabimata sector in Nyaruguru district say that were affected by the FLN insurgency say that they are dissatisfied with the verdict because they would have wanted Paul Rusesabagina to be sentenced to life imprisonment for the seriousness of the crimes committed.
It was necessary for them to be sentenced to life in prison because they were so cruel to us. They looted all our property. They deserve life in prison. Had the death penalty still been applicable in Rwanda, he should have been given that sentence. Just like he killed Rwandans, he should have been killed. Will he compensate the lives lost? The car that was burnt down, isn't that a loss of government property? Why should he be given a lenient sentence?
In addition to the Nyabimata attack in Nyaruguru district, the FLN militia launched another attack on December 15, 2018 in Nyungwe forest and set fire to some public and private vehicles. They also carried out an attack in the village of Sobochiniro on the night of April 13th, 2019, and looted civilian property and injured several people. All these attacks claimed the lives of 3 civilians in Nyaruguru district and 6 others in Nyamagabe district. To other matters now, the General Assembly elected a draft law governing elections. This law modifies the existing organic law of 29th July 2019 governing elections with some changes to the members of the electoral body in local authorities. Let's now hear from Gabi Muvunyi.
The draft law has been analysed in a bid to organise grassroots elections for 2021 with a view to harmonise the rules and changes required in the conduct of grassroots elections. The Rwanda Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee chairperson outlined some of the changes that have been made to the amendment of the draft law. The electoral body of the Executive Committee of the city will consist of the Council of the City of Kigali and the Council of all sectors of Kigali instead of the Bureau of Councillors as it was before. Secondly is that the general councillors will be directly elected. For example, all the people at the district level instead of being elected at the sector level, and the number will be governed by the law governing the district. At the sector level, re-election of councillors, from which 30% of the council members will be re-elected as usual, and those wishing to run for office will submit their candidature to NEC directly at the district level. The campaigns will be done on the day of elections. The draft law also specifies that in the event of any obstacles or limitations that could prevent the election from taking place normally, the minister in charge can determine another way in which the election can take place. The members of parliament who attended the General Assembly held virtually posed various questions regarding the draft law. I had a question regarding Articles 2 and 3, where they make a reference to the law governing the district. And that law that is being amended, we do not know of the changes or how things will be. The CPA Rwanda Executive Committee chairperson shed light on these issues.
It is governing the district.
Whether we call it draft law or another law governing districts, the goal is to look at the elections at the local authority level, and the changes in the bill must also have an impact on the current law. Also, if a person is elected, the minister must notify the commission within 30 days, and it is not permissible for those days to elapse before NEC is notified. The draft law has been approved by all members of parliament consisting of 8 articles and is now pending approval from other organs to fully become a law. Gabi Muvunyi, reporting for RTV News.
Away from Kigali, the Ministry of Emergency Management has resumed the relocation of refugees from Gihembe camp in Gicumbi district to Mahama camp in Kirehe district. More than 500 refugees have been relocated to the Mahama camp on Monday. At about 12:45 p.m. is when buses carrying refugees arrived at Mahama camp in Kirehe district from Gihembe camp in Gicumbi district. The refugees expressed that they are happy to have been moved from a high-risk area.
It's good that we have been relocated. We were in a high-risk zone. Floods would affect us a lot. We are happy that they have taken us to another province because of the rain. Our houses would be flooded in the other camp.
2,392 other refugees had already been relocated to this camp in May, in addition to the Burundian refugees that were already living there, who all welcomed the newly evacuated refugees. They say they had concerns about their lives before getting to the camp, but after getting used to it, they are now happy because of the difference in living conditions.
It's more vast here. The houses were well built. We don't worry about our lives being at risk. We even have hospitals.
tuje kureba abavandimwe bacu tuze kubakira ntibakanga n'ubushyuhe ariko hari imyaka ibyo bashaka byose barabibona.
We came to welcome our brothers and sisters. We have food, so they will get all they need. Akagera has fish. We have various markets and hospitals too. There is a proper road infrastructure.
Imihanda irahari, buri quartier zose amakartier yose afite imihanda ntabwo habuze umuhanda.
During the rainy season, the Gihembe camp in Gicumbi district, where refugees are being evacuated from, has been affected by flooding, which was putting the lives of the refugees at risk. Gicumbi district administration says once the refugees have all been evacuated, the infrastructure shall be used for other purposes and environment conservation projects. Gihembe refugee camp manager Goreth says that the relocation of the refugees from the disaster-stricken area will continue until December 12, 2021. Upon being transferred to Mahama camp, they were received at the resting centers where they'll first be tested for COVID-19 before being settled in homes. The UNHCR Deputy Country Representative Bubakar Bamba says the refugees being relocated will continue to be aided.
They are not moving out of the humanitarian assistance. Whatever they were receiving here, they will receive the same in Mahama. The only difference will be that they will change the location, and this is a constraint we cannot avoid. The camp is subject to environmental disaster. Many ravines have been created by the heavy rain in this area, and this is putting the refugee lives at risk. So we have empty spaces in Mahama. So with the government, they have been decided to move the refugees in a safest place than keeping them in this risky environment.
The Gihembe camp was established in 1997 with a population of about 12,000 refugees. About 2,930 have been relocated to Mahama, leaving a total of 9,384. So far in Rwanda, there are just over 127,000 refugees in 6 camps, with others in 5 temporary camps. That's all we had for you tonight. Thanks for the privilege of your time. Have a lovely rest of the week, free from COVID-19. Otherwise, God bless you and keep you. And until next time, I'm Gloria Mutisi. Bye for now.